Welcome back to Brawl Time, the show where we cover everything you need to know about the teams battling it out for a place at this year's World Finals. Who defied the odds and who are the 16 teams going to the World Finals? Who will be facing off in the first rounds there? Let's find out. In SESA and ANZ, Stort Esports had already locked in the only golden tickets for the region, but we all eagerly awaited to see if they would be able to become the second team in Brawl Esports history to proceed to the World Finals undefeated in both monthly qualifiers and monthly finals. Grasmodopin returned for the 5th time this year with a new roster edition of CCK, formerly FA Team Wood. For their opposition, Final Stand, it was only their second monthly finals appearance of the year, but they were out to make an impression. Despite Grasmodopin earning a speedy match point, Final Stand were able to withstand the might of 2 more, before ending things themselves to move on to the semi-finals and face newcomers Send More Help. Send More Help had attempted to qualify every month this year, before finally landing their spot in the October monthly final. Yet despite all this, they were able to beat Final Stand in a 3-1 scoreline. In a tale of 2 underdogs, Send More Help had become the top dog. But in the grand final, there was an entirely different beast altogether waiting for them. Stalwart Esports. Stalwart knew how heavily the matchup favored them, and they dug into it, while also using comps that made us all question reality. It was clear that they were enjoying themselves, and to Send More Help's credit, so were they. RCCW came into the monthly qualifier with a huge smile on his face just as he left with one, in much the same way that Stalwart Esports came into the year undefeated and left undefeated. With 1,186 points to their name, they had earned the most of any team this year. In LATAM South, AC Milan Clash and Chasmac Gaming BR were already locked in for Worlds, but 1 golden ticket remained, and Zest, formerly Zero Zone, Batra Gaming SA and Portuguesa Esports were all still in contention for it. Zest came into the monthly final in 3rd, but only 39 points ahead of Batra, and knew that they had to have a flying start in their opening match against newcomers KDI if they were to maintain their lead. And they did, pulling off a straight sweep and pressing ahead. On the other side of the bracket, Batra and Portuguesa Esports locked horns, and things were looking good for Portuguesa, who played with confidence. In the second set, Portuguesa secured the sweep, and with it, Batra's road had found its end. Sadly for Portuguesa Esports, their remaining prospects were also short-lived, as they later conceded to AC Milan Clash in the semi-finals in a 3-0 sweep. It was always going to be a tough ask to go all the way, but they had a commendable run nonetheless. This of course meant that Zest had earned enough points needed for a golden ticket and became the 3rd and final team in the region to qualify for the World Finals. There was only one thing left to do to see out the LATAM South region, and you know what's coming. We simply couldn't say goodbye to the region without having one last monthly final showdown between AC Milan Clash and Chasmac Gaming now, could we? And what a banger match it was. It really was neck and neck throughout, as for every set sweep that Chasmac earned, AC Milan Clash matched it. In the 5th and final set, however, it was AC Milan Clash who took home the win and finished the year on an incredible 1,110 points. Wow. In East Asia, bragging rights and of course cash were up for grabs, as both golden tickets had already been claimed by Zeta Division 1 and 0. It was Sweep City in one of the most extraordinary monthly finals of the year. Spoiler alert, every single match was decided in straight sets. Admittedly, Zeta Division 1 looked shaky against Fluffy in their quarterfinals match, so it was now or never for Rising Sun to cause an upset. But sadly for them, Zeta continue to do what Zeta does best: win. On to the grand final, and you'll need 0 guesses as to who made it from the other side of the bracket. Yeah, I'll just see myself out. But let's be honest, it wouldn't feel like an East Asia monthly final if we didn't close the region on a Zeta versus Zeta grand finals now, would it? Zeta Division 0 were no longer in a position to steal the #1 seed, but they knew that a win would be statement enough going into the World Finals. The final scoreline didn't really do the match the justice it deserved, with Zeta Division 0 taking a game away from Zeta Division 1 in every set. But in the end, it was Zeta Division 1 who ended the year strong and flaunt over 1,000 points to their name going in to the World Finals. Who knows? Maybe we'll get to enjoy one last face-off before the year is over. In EMEA, there were upsets before we even started the monthly final, with both Dogs to Lobster and STMN EU failing to qualify this month. So sadly for them, they are now both out of the running for the World Finals. But following a fantastic result with a Grand Finals finish last month, Navi qualified again for October. And after showing up to their match against Humble, they became the 5th team in the region to mathematically qualify for the World Finals. Humble were still in contention, but had a mountain to climb, and Navi showed them no mercy. Despite a promising start for Humble, Navi responded fiercely to take home the win, and it was over for Humble. But you had to admire the sportsmanship, as Gugu applauded on despite their 2022 journey coming to an end. Against Bax, Reply Totem moved quickly on to match point, but Bax wouldn't go down without a fight. In an absolutely insane clutch moment, Bax found a new lease of confidence, enough to put Reply Totem away in a shocking upset. Team Kesso also had a swift quarterfinals, meaning that Bax EU now had to take down the number 2 seed Tribe Gaming EU to steal the last remaining golden ticket. Bax gave it everything they had, but Tribe showed no remorse and closed the curtain on their World Finals hopes. But this also meant that Craze Clan had done it. Despite their loss, their performance throughout the year had been enough to earn themselves the last remaining golden tickets in the EMEA region. That being said, the team are not competing under the Craze Clan name at the World Finals, as the org released a statement shortly after announcing the players were looking for alternative representation. And well, Chasmac Gaming EU stepped forwards in a shocking turn of events. Meanwhile, Navi got their revenge over SK Gaming in the semi-finals and were eager to pay Tribe the same courtesy to land what would be their first Grand Finals win of the year. Tensions were riding high, but Tribe stayed cool through the 5th set and go to the World Finals on fire, having regained their number 1 seed. We always knew that North America and LATAM North would go out with a bang, but it's fair to say that we got more upsets than we bargained for. Tribe Gaming NA have dominated the region all year, but recently the tides have turned, as Vatra got the better of them in September to earn their first Grand Final win of the year. Vatra's performance catapulted them into 2nd place on the leaderboard, and by qualifying for October, they became the 2nd team to claim a golden ticket. After Tribe Gaming NA's first semi-finals exit of the year last month, sadly this month it all continued to go a little further downhill. They went against the fresh roster of Obey Alliance, who stood their ground and turned things around in the final set. Despite the loss, Tribe was able to comfortably hold on to their number 1 seed, but it was certainly not the results they were hoping for with the World Finals on the horizon. The only teams still in contention now were STMN and Vanguard Gaming. STMN needed a Grand Finals win unless Vanguard failed to proceed past the quarterfinal stages, and well, it seemed STMN had a Guardian Angel. With 3 Grand Finals appearances for Goliath's Vanguard Gaming, West Coast was undoubtedly the David of this story. But they played well, and Vanguard failed at their first hurdle. Their fate would now rest entirely with STMN, who now only had to win their semi-finals match in order to qualify for Worlds. But both the experience and drive led STMN to prevail against West Coast, and in a 3-0 sweep, they defied all odds and secured the last World Finals qualification spot of the entire competition. Vatra Gaming were looking to crash the STMN party, and we couldn't have asked for more from the Grand Final that would close out the season. It was an explosive battle that went all the way to the 5th and final set. For STMN though, it became the perfect end for their most important performance to date, and they head to the World Finals fresh off the back of the last Grand Final win of the year. And there you have it. We have now found 16 of the best teams from around the globe. It's been a phenomenal year, filled with nothing but non-stop brawl, sweat, and tears. But there can only be one 2022 champion. So I think it's about time that we find out what our bracket looks like, don't you? But first, let's talk through the format and the seeding. Our qualified teams from around the world will be competing in a 16-team single elimination bracket. We wanted to avoid both random seeding as well as regions competing against each other, so the bracket will be seeded in accordance with how well each region performed at MSI 2022, and how well each team did within their own respective region. The regional performance ranking to determine seeding is as follows. First seed will be East Asia. The second seed will be EMEA. The third team will be North America and LATAM North. The fourth seed will be LATAM South. The fifth seed will be SESA and ANZ. And the sixth seed will be mainland China. With the first 6 seeds determined, seeds 7 through 16 follow the same order using the remaining teams. For example, 7th will be East Asia, 8th will be EMEA, 9th will be North America and LATAM North, 10th will be LATAM South, and the 11th will be EMEA, and so on and so forth. This means that the team who finished first in East Asia will be the first seed on our BSC World Finals bracket, that team being Zeta Division 1. And the team that finished second in East Asia, being Zeta Division 0, will be the 7th seed. So now, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to find out who is going to face off in the first round of the Brawl Stars World Finals. This is it. There you have it. This is the bracket. Our first match will be Zeta Division 1 versus Shazmak Gaming EU. Shazmak, I hope you bring your A game for that one. Reply Totem versus Vatra for match number 2. I think that one is going to be very, very interesting. Match number 3, AC Milan Clash versus STMN. Match 4, Stort Esports versus Team Kesso. Match number 5, Tribe Gaming EU versus Zest. Zeta Division 0 versus Shazmak Gaming BR for match 6. What are the odds of that? Oh, Shazmak. Tribe Gaming NA versus Navi for match number 7. And match number 8 will be Nova Esports versus SK Gaming. That was a lot of fun. We will see you all very soon at the Brawl Stars World Finals in Paris to find out who is going to lift the 2022 trophy. So make sure to tune in on the 25th of November through until the 27th, because this is what it is all come down to. Be sure to follow at Brawl_esports on Twitter for more news and announcements in the lead up to the big day. And until then, it's goodbye for now.